the top 10 players in Blue Lock, an extremely contentious topic that I will be attempting to reason my way through in this video. Just prepare yourselves to get excited, because in this video I will be glazing your favorite characters, dunking on your favorite characters, and worst of all, giving my own opinion. When it comes to power scaling, in general, there's typically 3 ways in my experience to scale certain characters. Firstly, and most obvious, are feats and specific showings of power. The second type of scaling, which in my opinion is just as, if not more important, is narrative implication. And finally, the third way you can scale is based on the good old eye test. When 2 characters are fighting or competing, how strong does the character present themselves as? Do they look bored, interested, or extremely locked in? And by using statements, feats, the narrative, and the good old eye test, I will be ranking the top 10 players in Blue Lock. Keep in mind for this video, we will not be ranking them on their ability as a striker alone, but more on their overall ability to have impact in a game. I will also be giving each player a rating from C tier through S tier in categories such as offense, defense, passing, dribbling, and finally, raw shooting ability. I will also give characters an S+ tier if they are, in my opinion, the #1 performer in that specific category. Also, you may have realized I'm not including speed, and I think there's just no point because speed doesn't really even seem to be a factor for any character in the show other than Chigiri, Zantetsu, and Loki. Other characters more or less just appear where the plot needs them to be. We will only be counting players from Blue Lock, so no Charles, no pros, etc, etc. Although the one exception to that is Kaiser. He will be on this list because in my opinion, he's enough of a main character to include. Plus, it's my video and I want to include him. And with all that out of the way, make sure to like and subscribe to see more anime content in the future. Grab your snacks, relax, and let's hop into the ranking. Before we hop into the top 10, let me just go over some quick honorable mentions. Firstly, the emo demon himself, Kunigami. After being experimented on, bro is kind of like a mini Noah. He's now ambidextrous and can shoot massive power shots with either leg. He's also got a huge frame, so he's very useful for marking people, such as Shido in the PXG game, for example. Kunigami's problem at the moment is that he's fairly dumb. He can't dribble that well and he works terribly with others. The only goals he's gotten in the NEL arc are the ones hand-fed to him by Isagi. He has near zero ability to get goals on his own, and his seemingly refusal to play with the team makes him fairly useless and disappear in some games. Now, I do know he's a fan favorite, and as much as I dunk on him and make fun of him, he would probably be 11th or 12th overall on my list. Another shout out I have is for Rayo. Rayo is a super smart all-arounder who has the ability to copy some moves to a near perfect degree. Rayo's biggest weakness though is his extreme codependence on Nagi. If he were to fully strip his reliance on playing with Nagi, he could easily be much better. IQ is another solid shout. He could arguably be 10th on this list because, as it's obvious, the only way to win soccer games is goals. The same goes for the reverse. The fastest way to lose is to not block goals. IQ is a defensive demon who with Metavision has a lot of impact in his games. Next, I guess, is maybe Nico. He's kind of Walmart Isagi though, so truthfully he isn't the best, but as a defender with Metavision he's still fairly strong. And then the most random honorable mention I have is Barou. Now truthfully, this is me just looking at rankings. Somehow he's 9th in the rankings, although you have to keep in mind he's one of the few players who's played 4 matches instead of 3, and there is the fact he did used to be ranked 2nd in block, although that doesn't seem to mean much as Tokumitsu used to be 3rd, and he is beyond far from 3rd. And with those honorable mentions out of the way, let's hop into the top 10. Barely cracking his way into the top 10, we have the speed princess himself, Chigiri Hyoma. Chigiri's coach and master in the NEL arc is Chris Prince, the current #2 player in the world, only behind Noah. He asks Chigiri what type of player he wants to be, and he responds with, "I don't want to pass. I'll use these legs to break past the defense. I want to make my own goals as a striker." We get to see Chigiri's stat sheet, which is a very nice thing to have for a video like this. As a surprise to no one, his main strengths are his explosive speed and dribbling, which enables him to basically be a solo carry to his team, and along with being one of the best dribblers, he's nearly unstoppable when he was on a tear. He also has his 44-degree golden zone, which is a spot around 19 meters from the goal, that when he's in, his chances of scoring skyrocket. But I just don't think I can put him any higher than 10th, because every other player is overall more valuable to the team in one way or another. I think one of his biggest weaknesses is, although he's insanely good at getting past a lot of people, if he's versing someone smarter than him, it seems to get stopped fairly easily. Once Isagi unlocks Metavision in the Manchan Bastard game, Isagi effortlessly outmaneuvers him and basically views him as a non-threat. To be fair though, Metavision Isagi is a different type of monster. Overall though, I just feel every other player on this list is either significantly smarter than him or can just outclass him in raw talent alone. I'm giving Chigiri an A in offense, an S in dribbling, a B in shooting, a B in passing, and a C in defense. And like I said before, if I was including the speed as the 6th option, he would be the S+. In 9th place, I have Karasu. This one I definitely wasn't expecting to make the top 10, but at the very end of the PXG Bastard game, he unlocks Metavision, putting him comfortably in the top 10. Metavision is an ability that is more useful the higher soccer IQ someone has, and considering he has one of the highest in block, he definitely ascended multiple tiers in strength from this. Karasu has the best ball keeping ability in all of block, using amazing spatial awareness in his hands. No one can really take the ball from him. He also has the feat of stopping a super awakened Metavision Isagi at the end of the final match, along with stealing the ball many times in the same match. He was also the the number 3 ranked player in block at the end of Season 1, and even though it was slightly obvious he wasn't the 3rd best after Season 2, he was still at least top 6-7, so it would make natural sense given him Metavision on top of that would put him in the top 10 in the NEL arc, so that's more or less my logic for putting him in 9th place. I'd give him an A on offense, A in dribbling, B in shooting, B in passing, and S in defense. In our 8th place spot, I'm putting our GOAT, Bachira Meguru. Now, it's a little hard to rank Bachira because he really doesn't have that many feats that we see in the U20 arc or the NEL arc, but I guess we'll just go over what we do know. Firstly, he is without a doubt the #1 greatest dribbler in block. We've seen him time and time again bending over opposing teams and absolutely fucking them with his raw dribble skills alone. Another massive skill he has that goes more untalked about is his passing. Now, it's obviously not as refined as some of the top passers in the verse, but you remember in Season 1, he was kind of the GOAT at dumbing people up with pretty good passes. Even after losing every game in the NEL arc with these skills, he's managed to score in every single one. And with a current bid of 79 million, he's ranked 5th in all of block. Now, personally, I don't believe he's the 5th best player in block, but I am curious to see what his final bid placement is at the end of the arc after his game against Manshine. I feel his biggest weakness is kind of what I said before Chigiri, where he isn't necessarily dumb. Actually, scratch that. Bachira has to be one of the most brained human beings in all block. Regardless, though, if they verse someone massively smarter than them, they can typically be written out of the game. Although I have him above Chigiri and Karasu because I feel his raw skills are just like a step up. I'm giving Bachira an A in offense, S+ in dribbling, B in shooting, A in passing, and a C in defense. Hiori was an insane underdog coming into Season 3. After reading and watching Season 1 and 2, I barely even noticed him, but after the generational performance he's been putting up in the NEL arc, I couldn't in good faith not include him on this list. Let's just break down his skills real quick. Firstly, his passing has to be his best attribute. He is a pinpoint passing machine, bro. He has consistently shown the ability to perfectly give passes to the absolute best spot on the field. His final pass in the Uber's Bastard game was one he did off pure instinct, and he wasn't even looking at his Saki. Having someone who can set up other players to this extent is a super useful ability, like Shido and Sai, for example. Another ability he has is being a master dribbler. Obviously not as good as someone like Bachira, but his dribbling is still amazing. He's shown time and time again to get past people fairly easily and have some insane moves on his own. He also, just like Isagi and Karasu, has Metavision, allowing him to understand the field in a seemingly higher dimension than most everyone else. And at the beginning of the PXG Bastard game, Rin almost absolutely put my GOAT on fraud watch with one of the most disrespectful shots I'd ever seen. But our GOAT Hiori predicted the play and blocked the shot. He was even able to crack the secret behind Charles' contrarian playstyle and counter him. Overall, Hiori is an absolute monster who should not be overlooked. For offense, I'm giving him an A, dribbling an S. Shooting is weird because I don't think we've ever seen him shoot the ball, so I'll just assume he's decent and give him a B. Passing is an S+, and defense is an A. For our number 6 spot, I have my GOAT, Seishiro Nagi. Now, before anyone says anything, yes, I know Nagi is on insane fraud watch at the moment, but just listen and hear me out. Yes, I'm aware he's been massively underperforming in the NEL arc. But listen, the author is currently giving Nagi demons to face for his reawakening. My theory that I currently think would make the story so much more interesting is to have Nagi and Rayo, once again, play badly in their final game against FC Barcha. A lot of people under Rayo on the bids list are currently playing in this final PXG Bastard game. I think a crazy move would be to have Rayo's bid drop and the other players gain higher bids after the final 2 matches, to the point where Rayo falls out of the top 23 and gets kicked at a block. This would accomplish 2 things. Firstly, to re-remind the audience of the stakes by having a fairly big name character eliminated, and 2, force Nagi to have to dig deep and learn how to harness his ego playing on his own, which in turn gives him an awakening. The other possibility I see is, we all saw how motivated he was at the end of this chapter. Bro didn't have his own movie for nothing. That image of him having a hat trick against FC Barcha may unironically become real. Now, I personally think that's less likely and worse writing, but it still is a possibility. And even if he still is a pretty branded player overall, his raw ability just to score goals makes him the top of the list. I don't care what anyone says. In soccer, the overall main way to win is to be able to put the ball in the net. And we cannot deny that when Nagi is locked in and motivated, he can be one of the most dangerous players in the field. That's also why it's so hard to rank him, because when he's motivated and locked in, he can actually compete for one of the top spots in block. He just needs to do some soul searching. But if he's not motivated, he can be kind of shit. Overall, though, I'm giving Nagi an A in offense, surprisingly an A in dribbling, because we've seen a few times where he just pulls some shit out of his ass. Although, if you were to give him a B in dribbling, I wouldn't argue too much. An S in shooting, bro just pulls miracles out of thin fucking air. A B in passing and a B in defense. His current ranking of number 6 is a mix of his peak form and current. I don't think it's fair to rank him as just peak Nagi or just current slump Nagi, so hopefully my explanation satisfied you guys, and if it didn't, you probably already typed out a whole paragraph in the comments, which is fine too. Now for the part of the video that's really going to get people arguing. For my 4th and 5th place spots, I have Shido Rise and Barou Shoei. Now, I feel 4th and 5th place could go either way, but I'm just going to compare these 2 players and you guys can come to your own conclusions at the end. Firstly, let's just go over how these 2 two function on a team. As much as the fanboys on either side hate each other, these two are relatively similar in how they approach the game. They both more or less just play in a way disconnected to the team, following their own egos. Now listen, I'm aware Barou plays with the team on Ubers, but you guys have to realize he is only doing that because the team is perfectly built around him being the king. And even with that team fully supporting him, he still got angry and abandoned ship. Shido, on the other hand, views the game not as an 11v11 really, but more of a 1v21. Although I will say in this final match, he actually plays with the team slightly more, even to the point of passing to Rin, which honestly really made me impressed and gives him some extra points in my eyes. They're fairly similarly rated in each category. In offense, they're both A tier. Dribbling is the main category. They differ because with Barou's chop dribbling, he's actually fairly strong, so he gets an A. Shido, on the other hand, I believe has near 0 dribbling feats and can only really do much when the ball is passed to him, so I'm giving him a C in dribbling. Next, we have raw shooting ability. As a shock to nobody, I'm giving them both the S tier rating. I believe Barou is tied with Rin in most goals in the NEL arc with 7. Using his new Predator Eye and massive kicking strength, having him anywhere near the goal box with the ball is always extremely dangerous for the other team. Now, Shido, on the other hand, I don't know how much I really need to explain. Now, it is kind of true he's a little wishy-washy when it comes to shot accuracy, as we see in this panel here. But when Shido's locked in flow state, he arguably could be the S+ in shooting. In flow, when mixed with a good passer, he makes some of the most generational plays the world has ever seen. If he were to work more on his accuracy, he could become truly terrifying. So even though they're both S tier in shooting, I feel like Barou on average is better, but Shido can peak significantly higher. Next, I'm giving them both a C in passing. They both nearly always refuse to pass. Someone like Barou has thrown countless amounts of goals by not passing, and someone like Shido barely even knows how to pass since he never does it. Shido only barely got a C because in the last chapter, he was at least shown passing to Rin. And then for our final category of defense, I'm giving Barou a B because he has a decent frame and isn't the worst at it, but I'm giving Shido a C. He has nearly 0 defensive feats. So overall, Barou has higher stats, making him better, right? Well, yes and no. There's a few more things I want to mention before you make your decision. Firstly, looking at overall goals, Barou has 7 and Shido has 4. Keep in mind though, Shido has to share goals with Rin, and Barou, on the other hand, has an entire team built just to set him up. Like, if all 10 players aren't fully there just to raise you up, how good would you really be, you know? Like, just keep in mind someone like Isagi outperformed Barou in their match, while everyone on Ubers was holding Barou's hands, and Isagi had to fight all of them plus half of his own team at the same time. And then wrapping it back to narrative implication, Shido was ranked higher than Barou at the end of Season 1 and Season 2, and we see this frame shown before the PXG Bastard game. It, to me, looks at least like the author is trying to imply these are the 4 strongest players in block. And once again, like I said before, I think it's fairly obvious that Shido as a whole peaks higher. So with all that information, I wouldn't be mad with anyone putting either of these characters in the number 4 spot. Now, me personally, what do I think? Using the narrative and just raw feats alone, I would have to pick Shido as my number 4 and Barou as my number 5. But like I said before, if you disagree, that's perfectly fine. I have them literally neck and neck, so it could go either way. And for our final 3, it should honestly be a surprise to no one. I have Isagi, Rin, and Kaiser. We will go over all their feats and abilities to truly find out who's the strongest of them all. This is definitely the hardest to rank, and honestly, I feel like I could go to either one of these 3 guys. Firstly, let's go over their offensive power. Now, if you've been paying close attention, I've given all 7 characters before them an A in offense, because in my opinion, these 3 are offensively are just a step up from everyone else, so that's why they will all be in the S tier. So the first comparison I'll be making is between Kaiser and Isagi. Now, after the Ubers and PXG game, we can clearly, in my opinion, see Isagi outperform Kaiser in offensive ability. Isagi had Kaiser falling apart to such a degree, Kaiser was having PTSD flashbacks about his abusive past. Now, as we all saw though, Kaiser does have an awakening from the pressure Isagi put on him. And once Kaiser and Isagi are both at full power, they're relatively equal in overall offensive strength and their terror when working together. But overall, I still do feel Isagi can coordinate with everyone else better and seems smarter than Kaiser, overall making me safely give Isagi the leg up in this category. Hell, this generational offensive team up with Kaiser and Isagi never even happens without Isagi, because he's the one who was smart enough to realize it was their only chance of winning. Now, the real debate is who's the real strongest out of Isagi and Rin. Now, there's 2 ways to look at this: offensive power you bring to the team or offensive power you bring yourself. Isagi, in my opinion, is the clear strongest offensive powerhouse when he has people to follow him. It's even confirmed in this panel, Isagi is hands down the smartest player in block. When Isagi has people who follow him, his attack power is simply unparalleled. He can outsmart people like Rin and blast past them. But the other type of offensive power is solo strength. Rin in his destroyer mode is undeniably the single most powerful entity on the field. All of his already broken stats skyrocket and break past their limits just to barely stop max power Rin. It's taken the combined effort of a freshly awakened Isagi and freshly awakened Kaiser working together. Or in other words, it's taken the maximum strength of 2 monsters to stop the max strength of this absolute titan. So to recap, Isagi's offensive power is the strongest with other pieces, and Rin's offensive power is the strongest by himself. Now, actual games of soccer there are 11 versus 11, so I'm tempted to give Isagi the S+ in offense, but after giving it some thought, I'm just gonna have to give it to Rin. I'm sorry, but having the only way to stop you be a maximum power team up from an awakened Isagi and Kaiser is too insane a feat to ignore. So in the offense category, I'll be giving Kaiser third with an S, Isagi second with an S, and Rin first with the S+. But keep in mind, all three of these are super close. Our next category is dribbling, and this one is a lot simpler than the last category. In third place, to no one's surprise, I'm giving it to Isagi with a rating of A. A may seem a little high to you, but after rereading this arc, bro, my goat Isagi has massively improved his dribbling. We see him use many sick moves to get past Kaiser and even Rin. So overall, I think he deserves at least an A. Second place goes to Kaiser with another A ranking. Kaiser is definitely no Bachira or Hiori when it comes to dribbling, but just like Isagi, he's still relatively good. And then finally, as a surprise to no one once again, I'm giving Rin the #1 spot with an S in dribbling. We've seen that when Rin is in his destroyer mode, he is an absolute dribble machine who can knock over entire teams by himself. Truthfully, if it weren't for Bachira, Rin would, in my opinion, be the #1 dribbling block. Now we're getting to, in my opinion, the most fun category, a raw shooting ability. Now, just like offensive ability, all three of these guys have at least an S in shooting. Now let's get the obvious third place out of the way. Isagi, as much as I love him, he has to be the weakest shooter out of these three. Now don't get it twisted, he's the worst shooter out of these three, but he's still a high S tier monster in front of the goal box. He is the best at direct shots in the entire show. In soccer, having the ability to shoot well without having to take a touch is extremely useful. That enough wouldn't make him S tier, but after the Ubers and PXG game, his shooting skills have skyrocketed. He realizes he needs a new weapon with a 100% chance of scoring in front of the goal box and quickly runs to the muscle demon himself, Kunigami. After just watching Kunigami train for a few days, he learns how to be ambidextrous and he can now do direct shots with either leg. After this insane feat, he takes it a step further. He mixes a new skill with Nagi's juggling shot, and with that, a new god was born with his 2-gun direct volley. This new skill was so OP, even Kaiser describes the shot as obliterating and says that if he were to master it, his value as a striker will skyrocket, and starts panicking, thinking Isagi will overtake him on the team. Like, this isn't a statement from me, just some Isagi glazer. This is from Kaiser himself, so you can't really deny how strong he is at this point. Unfortunately, Isagi as our raw shooter alone cannot compete with these two monsters in this category. Now, who is the master striker out of these two beasts? Rin has the ability to basically shoot from anywhere with pinpoint precision, and in his destroyer mode can make mid-air crash shots, but truthfully, I think the clear S+ tier winner in this category is Kaiser. I don't think we've seen a single player even come close to what this guy produces in almost every match. Rin is someone who makes generationally skilled shots, but Kaiser is someone who can make the impossible possible. Firstly, he has the fastest kicking speed out of any player we've ever seen, including players such as Noah. Then in his game against Manshine, 5 defenders plus the goalie are in front of his shot course, and he seemingly effortless, holy shit, effortless, and he seemingly effortlessly threads the needle with a shot through every single player perfectly, showing that his precision and ability to not hesitate are top tier. Next, we have his Kaiser Impact Magnus. I mean, do I really even need to explain this? And then in my opinion, his most impressive shot was against Ubers. Rin hit a mid-air crash shot, which is definitely insanely impressive, but Kaiser, on the other hand, has someone crash into him, goes flying in the air over Ryu's back, and then upside down in mid-air hits a bicycle nutmeg shot into the goal. I'm sorry, but no one can come close to Kaiser in terms of raw shooting, other than like peak Shido. Next, we have probably the most boring category. It's passing. Truthfully, I think Isagi's first just because of his raw IQ alone. Kaiser is probably second because he's more or less equal to Isagi in IQ, and then Rin is third. I give them all A tier because they're all extremely smart players who are good at using quick synergizing passes to make plays, but truthfully, none of them are S tier like someone like Hiori or Sai. Regardless though, if you have a different opinion on who's the best in this category, that's fine. I don't feel too strongly about it either way. And then finally is the defense category. Once again, I'm giving all three of these guys S tier. All three of these guys are super smart at reading the field, and once again, I do believe Isagi is stronger than Kaiser just from raw IQ alone. He was able to block Barou's shot course 4 times in the Ubers game, and his literal best defensive move was synergizing with Kaiser. Once again, like I said before, this doesn't happen without Isagi starting the team up. As previously mentioned, Isagi is the best at using all of his pieces for the best outcome. Now, do we think Rin's defensive skills are overall better or worse than Isagi's? In the U20 game, Isagi's prediction ability and spatial awareness allowed him a stronger defense than, say, Rin because he was able to see his blind spot. But in that same game, Rin's destroyer mode was able to beat a somewhat serious Sai in dribbling. So truthfully, like the offense category, I feel the S+ could go either way. But in my opinion, it goes to Isagi because his unparalleled ability to use his teammates and himself as pieces on a chessboard create conditions in which it's nearly impossible to score for the opposing team. This is the final stat sheet updated with everyone's ratings. Now, tied in second place is Isagi and Kaiser. Both these guys have 2 A's, 2 S's, and each of them have an S+ rating. First place is Rin with 1 A, 3 S's, and an S+. Now, is Rin the best player overall? Firstly, let's just pick in my opinion, the clear third place pick. Kaiser, at the end of the day, Isagi has proven time and time again he's just an overall better version of Kaiser. Isagi is basically the smartest player in Block by a decent bit, and his ability to use himself as a tool and synergize with everyone else, including his rival Kaiser, is just too impressive in my opinion. The only real category he beats Isagi in is shooting, and even then, I feel like Isagi's brain can create more opportunities for goals in total, so it's kind of overshadowed. The other reason, in my opinion, Isagi is better is once again a narrative implication. Rin makes it seem like Kaiser is just an annoying piece of the puzzle, while Isagi is the main dish. I think this panel showing the parallel of Rin's darkness and Isagi's light is the author trying to convey. These are the two strongest in the show at this point. So with all that out of the way, we have our final two, Isagi Yoichi and Itoshi Rin. Overall, this is going to go back to the same argument I made about offensive ability. Would you rather have the super mastermind Isagi in your team who can set up the most 500 IQ genius unstoppable plays, or the terrifying monster one-man army Rin on your team? And truthfully, I think the answer is obvious. Soccer is a sport played with 11 people. Having someone use all of their pieces to their maximum effect is the surefire best way to win a game. So I do believe Isagi is the man who can best have an impact in a soccer game. And on top of everything, if you're still not convinced, Isagi's max power at this point can be used basically whenever he wants, while Rin's max power cannot. With that fact alone, I think it's clear who the strongest player in all of Block is. My ambidextrous goat himself, the heart of Block, Isagi Yoichi. Keep in mind I'm making this ranking currently at chapter 288, so any crazy last minute power-ups are yet to be seen, but I feel my list is solid no matter what happens, and yeah, that is my final ranking based on everyone's performances throughout the show and NEL arc. I'm definitely very excited to see how certain characters progress in the U20 World Cup arc, and I'm super excited to see what all the final bids are for all the players. Overall, it's a great time to be a Block fan. And with all that being said, all we can do is wait now. Comment down below who you'd put where and why, like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.